I saw her. She was standing at the end of the tunnel, glowing in soft white light, her silver hair flowing gently as if carried by a breeze I could not feel. My grandmother. The one who died when I was just 8. She did not say a word, but she was smiling at me, arms open wide. The warmth in her eyes was enough to make me want to run into them. I was almost there. Almost. Then everything shifted, and I realized something terrifying. I was not supposed to be here. Before I go deeper into what happened, I want to thank everyone who has supported this channel. To all our new subscribers, welcome. To our returning viewers who are still thinking about subscribing, I truly hope you hit that button today. Your support is what keeps this channel alive. It is the fuel that powers everything we do. And please, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Share your experiences, your feelings, anything that comes to your heart as you listen to this story. My name is Allison Gray. I am 25 years old. I live in Washington State, where I grew up surrounded by mountains, pine trees, and stories of the past that often came from my grandmother. She was everything to me when I was little, soft-spoken, full of stories, and the only adult who ever truly made me feel seen. She passed away when I was 8, after a long battle with cancer. My mother did not take it well. Neither did I. But we never talked about it. I studied to become a nurse. Life was not perfect, but I had made peace with many things. Or so I thought. What happened to me last year was something I never saw coming. It started with a pain in my lower abdomen that I tried to ignore. I thought it was cramps at first. Maybe food poisoning. I had just finished a double shift at the hospital and felt exhausted. By midnight, I was throwing up and sweating. By 3 a.m., I could no longer stand. My roommate found me curled on the floor in our kitchen. She called 911. They said it was a ruptured appendix. I remember being wheeled into the emergency room. My chest felt tight. My hands were freezing. I looked up at the fluorescent lights above me and thought, is this really happening? Then everything started to blur. I do not remember the exact moment my heart stopped. But I remember the stillness. It was not sleep. It was not a dream. 1 second, I was hearing doctors yelling. The next, I was above the room, watching the surgery unfold. It was like floating, silent and weightless. I saw the surgeons rushing. I saw my own body, pale and lifeless, on the operating table. I wanted to scream, I am here. I am not gone. But my voice was gone. My mouth did not move. I felt no fear. Only confusion, followed by a strange calm. Then the room faded, like smoke vanishing into the air. Suddenly, I was in a dark space. Not pitch black, but grayish. There was no floor beneath me, no ceiling above. Just mist and silence. I felt alone but not threatened. Ahead of me, something began to glow. It started small, like a crack of light through a door, then widened. It became a tunnel, long, bright, and peaceful. The light was unlike anything I had seen. Not blinding, not harsh. It felt alive. It pulsed gently, like it was breathing. I felt drawn to it. Like a magnet pulling me closer. I began to move without walking. I was not scared. I was curious. Then I saw her. At the far end of the tunnel stood a figure. At first, I could not make out the face. But as I got closer, everything became clear. The white blouse she used to wear. The small pendant around her neck with a blue stone in the center. Her gentle smile. It was my grandmother. I froze. Emotions came rushing like a flood. I wanted to cry. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to run to her. But I could not move. She did not speak. She did not need to. Her smile said everything. It said, I see you. I have missed you. You are safe. Tears welled up in my eyes. I reached my hand out, but something inside me hesitated. I remembered something, the world I had left behind. My mother. My younger brother. My friends. Would I be leaving them behind forever? As I stood there, caught between peace and responsibility, something began to shift behind me. I felt a pull, like wind pressing against my back. I turned for a moment and saw nothing. But the light began to dim slightly. My grandmother's face stayed calm, but her eyes seemed to say, "It is not your time yet." I wanted to ask her, why now? Why show yourself after all these years? But no words came from either of us. Only silence. Silence filled with love. Suddenly, I felt something sharp, like a cord yanking me backward. The tunnel began to twist. Her image started to blur. I reached forward, screaming in my mind, "No. Please, let me stay." But she lifted her hand, just slightly, and smiled one last time. Then everything went black. I gasped as if I had been underwater too long. Nurses surrounded me. The beeping of the monitor returned. I was back. Alive. Shivering. Crying. My chest ached, and my eyes could not stop leaking tears. No one understood why I kept repeating, "She was there." She was really there. They thought it was the drugs. Maybe the trauma. Maybe a dream. But I know what I saw. I know what I felt. My grandmother was waiting for me. Smiling. In the tunnel of light. The hospital lights felt harsher after what I had seen. Cold. Empty. Too real. I woke up with a sharp ache in my chest, an oxygen tube up my nose, and a nurse's hand gently tapping my arm, whispering my name like a fragile spell trying to pull me fully back to earth. I blinked slowly, my vision adjusting. Everything looked the same, but I was not the same. Something had changed inside me. Something I still could not name. It took the doctors almost 3 minutes to bring me back. 3 minutes without a heartbeat. 3 minutes where I was gone. Some of them were amazed I had no brain damage. Others simply brushed it off as luck. But I knew it was more than luck. The surgeon visited later that night. A man in his late 50s with tired eyes and a steady voice. He told me I had survived a close one. "You are young," he said. "Your heart fought for you." I wanted to tell him it was not my heart that saved me. It was her. My grandmother. Her smile. Her silent message. But I stayed quiet. How could I even explain what happened without sounding crazy? My mother sat beside me, holding my hand tighter than I ever remembered. She had not cried in years. Not since the funeral. But now, her eyes were red and swollen. Her knuckles white with worry. "Allison," she whispered, "I thought I was going to lose you." I looked at her and thought of Grandma. Of how they barely spoke in those last months. How grief pushed them apart instead of closer. I wanted to tell her everything, but I could not yet. Not until I understood it myself. After they moved me out of intensive care, I thought things would go back to normal. Physically, they did. My body healed fast. But my nights were anything but normal. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the tunnel. Not always fully, sometimes just flashes, the soft white glow, the silent mist, the overwhelming feeling of love and peace. And always, somewhere at the edge of my dream, she stood. My grandmother. Smiling. Watching. Waiting. I was not scared. I missed it. I longed for the feeling I had in that place, safe, whole, free. But I also feared it. I feared that maybe I had gotten too close. That if I let myself feel that peace again, I would not want to return. About a week later, I could not hold it in anymore. I told my friend Jasmine, my roommate, the one who found me that night. She had always been the rational one, the planner, the skeptic. But that day, she just listened. I told her everything. The floating above the operating table. The tunnel. The light. The way Grandma looked. The way she said nothing, yet everything made sense. She looked at me for a long time. Then she nodded and said something I did not expect. You know, she said slowly, my cousin said the same thing when she came out of her coma. She said her grandfather was there. Also smiling. Also silent. Like they were trying to tell her something without words. For the first time since it happened, I did not feel insane. I felt seen. 2 weeks after being discharged, I drove with my mother to the old farmhouse where my grandmother had lived. It had been empty for years. No one wanted to sell it. No one wanted to live in it either. It just stood there, like a memory frozen in time. The porch creaked under our weight. The door moaned as it opened. Dust filled the air, and sunlight streamed through the dirty windows. Every corner reminded me of her. The faded wallpaper. The old rocking chair. The wooden spoons she used to hang in the kitchen. It all made my chest tighten. I walked into her bedroom. It was exactly how I remembered it. The floral quilt on the bed. The mirror with one crack in the corner. Her dresser still had the small jewelry box with the blue stone pendant she always wore. I opened it, and there it was. That same pendant. The one I had seen glowing at her neck in the tunnel. The same exact one. My breath caught in my throat. She had worn it in both worlds. I clutched it tightly and sat on the edge of her bed. My mother walked in quietly behind me. She saw the pendant in my hand. Her eyes widened. She used to say this necklace was her connection to the spirit world, my mother said. I always thought it was just superstition. She said when her time came, she would pass it to whoever needed it next. I said nothing. But deep inside, I knew, I was that person. Over the next few days, I kept the pendant close. I wore it around my neck like armor. And with it, the dreams started to change. Instead of just seeing her smile, I began to feel something more. A message, clear and calm, pressing into my heart. You have more to do. I did not hear it. I felt it. Like a knowing that filled every part of me. I had always been so focused on survival, on proving myself, on checking boxes. But for what? In that tunnel, none of it had mattered. Only love had mattered. Only connection. Only peace. I realized then that coming back was not just about survival. It was about purpose. One evening, not long after my realization, I was working in the hospital again, though only on light duties. A woman came into the emergency room, older, confused, alone. She had fallen while shopping and had no ID. I sat with her, held her hand while they cleaned her wound. She was disoriented, scared. I told her everything would be all right. Suddenly, she looked straight into my eyes and said softly, "She says thank you for listening." I blinked. What did you say? But she had already forgotten. Or pretended to. I never told anyone about that moment. But I knew exactly who she was. They say when people return from the other side, they never truly come back the same. I used to think that was just a poetic way of describing trauma. But now, I know better. You do not walk through the edge of eternity and forget the feel of it. For weeks, I moved through life like someone seeing the world through new eyes. Everything felt sharper, more vibrant, yet more fragile. The sunrises looked golden in ways they never had before. Strangers' smiles lingered longer. Silence now spoke volumes. But beneath it all, one question pulsed inside me like a heartbeat. Why me? One quiet afternoon, I found myself back at the farmhouse again. My mother was outside pruning the overgrown bushes, and I wandered through the kitchen, drawn by a strange sense of longing. There was a narrow drawer under the sink I had never paid attention to. The wood was warped from water damage, but I managed to wedge it open. Inside were several envelopes, yellowed and delicate with time. Each one was labeled with the same neat handwriting, "For Allison." My chest tightened. My name. Written in her hand. I sat on the floor and read the first letter. Her words were soft, steady, and full of warmth. If you are reading this, then it means you were chosen. Do not fear the path ahead. It will not always make sense. But your soul will know the way. Each letter after that was more personal. She spoke of dreams she had when I was a child. Of visions she could never explain. Of a time she believed would come, when I would face something dark, and something divine. I may not be here in body, she wrote, but I will be near. You will see me in the in-between. And when you do, you will know your true purpose. I took the letters home and kept them in a wooden box next to my bed. That night, I could not sleep. I kept staring at an old family photo on my nightstand, one I had seen 100 times but never truly looked at. It was taken the summer before Grandma passed. We were sitting on her porch. I was 13. She had one arm around me and the pendant around her neck. The same one I now wore. But then, I noticed something strange. In the background, just over Grandma's shoulder, was a pale streak of light. Not sunlight. Not lens flare. Something different. Something shaped almost like a small arc, the beginning of a tunnel. My skin tingled. I took the photo to a local photography expert the next day. He examined it for a long time and finally said, "There is no damage here. No reflection. Whatever that light is, it was in the frame when this was taken." I walked out without saying a word. Deep down, I already knew what it was. 2 days later, my mother handed me something wrapped in cloth. "I found this under Grandma's mattress," she said. "I think you should read it." It was a journal. Faded brown leather. Inside, the handwriting was small and pressed deep into the pages, as though every word had weight. Most of it was filled with memories. Her childhood, her marriage, her fears. But one passage stood out. "I believe Allison will be the one to bridge the space between two worlds. She carries something I once saw in a dream. A light unlike any I have ever seen. I do not know what she will face, but she will not face it alone. When the time comes, I must guide her back. Even if it means holding my smile longer than my fear." Reading those words broke something open inside me. The image of her standing in that tunnel, calm, quiet, steady, suddenly made sense. She had known. She had been waiting. Not to keep me there, but to help me return. Back at the hospital, life continued as normal. But I was different. And one day, that difference mattered more than I could have imagined. A young girl named Sophie was brought in after a near drowning. 9 years old. No heartbeat for 2 minutes. But then, she came back. When she woke, her parents were crying with joy. The doctors were relieved. But Sophie was calm. Almost too calm. Later that evening, I sat with her while her mother went to get dinner. Sophie looked at me, tilting her head slightly. "You know the tunnel, too, do you not?" she asked. My heart skipped. I nodded, barely breathing. "I saw my grandfather," she whispered. "He told me there would be someone here who understood." I had no words. I simply reached for her hand and held it. And in that moment, something passed between us, quiet, sacred, unspoken. Like two people who had been to the same faraway place and made it back with scars only each other could see. That night, I walked through the park by myself. The stars were brighter than usual, and the moon looked like it was listening. I thought about everything: Grandma's letters, the journal, Sophie's words. And then, I understood. I came back not just for myself, but for others. To guide. To listen. To carry the light I had seen into the lives of people still walking in darkness. I did not need a title or a pulpit. I just needed to show up, open, honest, alive. People often wait for miracles. What they do not realize is that sometimes, the miracle is the one who returns. Before I finish this story, I want to share the last dream I had of her. She was sitting in her rocking chair, on the porch, just like in the old days. The pendant was glowing at her throat. She looked up, smiled, and said, "You made it, sweetheart. Now go help them find the way." I woke up with tears in my eyes. But this time, they were not from grief. They were from gratitude. She had smiled me back into life. And I plan to honor that smile for the rest of my days. Thank you for walking through this journey with me. I hope it touched something deep inside you. If you or someone you love has ever experienced something unexplainable, do not run from it. Embrace it. It may just be the beginning of something more. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you have your own story, I am listening. Always. See you in the next story.